you are on Initiative Africa. My name is Asha. Welcome to our weekly magazine featuring Africa on the move through smart innovations and initiatives that work. On our show today, an amazing young woman who has chosen Africa 13 years ago and who is moving mountains with simple and sharp action. Sophie Touvenel has dedicated more than a decade working to help young Africans, especially young girls.
The idea is to sensitize them about the fact that they have all the potential to succeed in becoming what they want to be. They have the potential to shape their country, their nation, and on a larger scale, Africa.
Our guest this week is a young woman who might surprise you. During more than a decade, Sophie Touvenel has been traveling all around Benin to help children, girls, and empower women by training them so that they can take control of their destiny with her association Hirondelle de l'Avenir. The goal? Boost and inspire African youth based on the saying, don't wait for divine intervention and start helping yourself. François Baudry met her right before another similar mission in Zambia.
Hello, Sophie Touvenel.
Bonjour.
Thank you for joining us on our show, Initiative Africa. We'll of course talk about you and your commitment in Africa, but we'd also like to know more about the other Sophie, the one working in the fashion industry. So let's start with what you are currently doing in Africa with your association Hirondelle de l'Avenir. Also, tell us, why are you going to Zambia tomorrow? What are you going to do there, when usually your actions are mainly focused in Cotonou, in Benin?
En fait, j'ai été choisie par la lauréate.
In fact, I was spotted by the Zambian laureate of Businesswomen in Africa, an annual economic summit in Marrakech last June.
Je l'ai rencontrée au mois de juin à Marrakech. Et elle a développé une...
She has developed an online mobile payment platform and she wanted to involve me to lead the project related to the empowerment of 600 women by giving them access to microcredits through this platform and help them grow their own business.
De manière à ce qu'elles puissent développer leur propre business.
What's going to happen in concrete terms? How are you involved with this women's network?
So concretely, I visit her startup called Mangui, which has already received several prizes. Then I guess I will meet the women she has selected and discuss about all that. We'll also see how we can set up this kind of partnership to eventually export it to Benin, for example.
Why Zambia? It was a great opportunity with this young woman.
In fact, I met them in Ouida last June. They were 54 laureates from 54 African countries and we bonded during the event.
Let's get back to how it started in Africa. 13 years ago, you landed in Benin and decided to create an association for underprivileged children. How did it happen?
En fait, je suis partie en mission humanitaire.
I went on a humanitarian mission on my own, and from the moment the plane landed on the ground, I felt great, and that was a good start. At that time, I was a student in environmental sciences, so I used to audit several associations in relation to the environment. There was one that seemed more credible than others, and I started some environmental projects when I came back to France. I started piloting remote projects and returned after graduating. I told myself that I wished to continue this adventure, so I left for Benin. Then, by spending a lot of time with the children and see the lack of schools for girls especially, I told myself that I should do something to improve access to education, and that's how the children's sponsorship in Benin started.
13 years later, where do you stand?
Well, 13 years later, we have 500 children who are sponsored throughout the country. We have children who have grown up and also provide access to professionalization through training, scholarships, and we also conduct skills and personality assessments and also question them about their values to make sure that they are aligned with what really matters to them. We created Les Hirondelles Scholarship and provide them with the relevant tools to become who they want to be. We have created multimedia coding centers, training farms. We are really trying to change the paradigm with what we've set up so far in Benin so that they can be fully autonomous.
We see the proliferation of NGOs involved in the field in Africa, often launched by foreigners. But in the end, isn't it up to Africans to empower themselves?
Exactement. Donc nous, c'est le but, c'est-à-dire
Exactly. So our goal is not to spoon-feed them. It's about economic aid. So the idea is to sensitize them about the fact that they have all the potential to succeed in becoming what they want to be. They have the potential to shape their country, their nation, and on a larger scale, Africa, but also internationally.
tout simplement.
Let's head back to the second part of this week's interview with our young leader and founder of Hirondelle de l'Avenir Association, Sophie Touvenel, who has been busy empowering African youth in Benin.
J'avais promis au début de notre entretien.
I mentioned at the beginning of our interview that we'll talk about you, your commitment, but also your other life in the fashion industry. But before that, as the founder of Hirondelle de l'Avenir, what are you doing exactly?
Qu'est-ce que vous faites au juste?
Alors, moi, il faut savoir que je mange Hirondelle de
I eat, drink, sleep, and dream about Hirondelle de l'Avenir. It's my priority every single day. The first thing I think about in the morning is Hirondelle de l'Avenir, and the last thing when I go to bed. My goal is really to convey a message of mutual help and solidarity. As the founder of the association, I'm trying to set up a framework to oversee the teams on the field, as well as develop teams in France, set up the civic service and the headquarters agreement so that we can export the Hirondelle de l'Avenir model to other African countries and eventually more globally and aim bigger for optimal impact.
plus grand pour avoir le maximum d'impact.
But it all costs a fortune. Where will you get the money? I mean, it seems quite simple.
Ça a l'air simple. Le parrainage s'autofinance.
Yes, it sounds quite simple. The sponsorship is self-financed, so each sponsor, we have 500 sponsors by the way, give 12 euros per month. Just do the math. Then we also appeal to companies that are looking for tax exemption or want to do a good deed. And I also want to have access to grants, so we're putting all that in place. I'm part of the Louvre incubator who is assisting me in the process to apply for these subsidies, which are much bigger amounts.
What about American foundations?
Yes, of course, but I'm also aiming the European Union, the FDA. I'm not afraid to go big. I know that I'm up to it, so I just go for it and that's it. The idea is really to develop it internationally and to have maximum impact.
Si on résume un peu l'histoire.
To briefly sum up your career, you were training to become an engineer in environmental sciences and you became a top model to fund your education.
Vous acceptez d'être mannequin, top modèle.
And it worked, and at the same time, you left for Benin for an educational program. Is that correct?
Un cursus scolaire ou c'est ça, hein?
Alors, plus ou moins. Alors déjà, top model, c'est un bien grand mot. Hein. J'aurais bien aimé.
Yeah, more or less. Not a supermodel, just a model. I left. I wanted to do a humanitarian mission in Benin, so I went there on my own.
Là-bas, c'était un parcours de circonstances.
So it was a coincidence, and then from that moment I felt invested of a mission, and I decided to go back to France to continue modeling because it's really income generating. It allowed me to build, let's say, the financial foundations and hence devote my time and money to live my passion, in other words, my work in Africa.
Que sont les actions que je mène en Afrique aujourd'hui, tout simplement?
Parce que
Because the world of fashion and the underprivileged children of Africa?
There's a huge gap.
There is a gap. So how do you reconcile both?
Alors j'ai réussi à fédérer des énergies parce que
I managed to reconcile both because today more than 50% of sponsors are people who come from the fashion industry. So they are models, makeup artists, hairdressers, or even clients. And it's true that I try to talk about my work in Africa as much as I can, as we never know what can happen. And all the network that I've built till today comes mainly from the fashion network.
Prendre à ce niveau-là.
And does it work?
Yes, it does. People are happy. It suits them well. So when they're told, well, there's Sophie with her association, it's concrete. You can also have feedback videos from children as they have social workers who are dedicated to them. Then people say, well, why not? And then once they've experienced it, they are convinced. And thanks to word of mouth, today we have 500 sponsors.
You have expanded your activities today. You mentioned something earlier, multimedia coding centers, training farms, and so on and so forth. How do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? What are you going to be? A multinational or, on the contrary, spread out like NGOs?
Non, alors l'idée, moi, je suis vraiment...
What a fantastic idea. But it's about networking above all.
Oui, on va rester sur le format de l'association.
We'll continue being an association supported by subsidies, but we'll also develop a hybrid business model with a return on investment to become autonomous. So we'll see how to develop it, either through multimedia coding centers or the farm. That's the first thing.
Multimédia de coding, soit à travers la ferme.
Then our vision is that the children that we started sponsoring in 2008 become great entrepreneurs, or people who want to inspire other Africans or Beninese in their respective countries.
Qui ont envie d'inspirer les autres Africains, les autres Béninois qui sont
So that, of course, they take control of their economies, of their countries, and that is what we are doing.
Bien à travers
It works really well through the establishment of scholarships, by simply giving them access to entrepreneurship or other scholarships, or even professional training.
Ou à des formations professionnelles.
Plenty of work ahead then.
Yes, plenty of work indeed, but we'll succeed.
Dernière question. Vous savez que beaucoup de
One last question. You know that a lot of young people are watching you on this show, young people, young girls in particular. What do you want to tell these youngsters who have understood they are the movers and shakers in their neighborhoods, villages, or even, why not, their countries? What would you like to say to them?
Ou même, pourquoi pas, de leur pays. Que leur dites-vous?
The key to succeed, I think, is self-confidence. So they have to realize that they have all the potential, as I said, that they are capable of absolutely anything they want. Of course, I'm here to help if they need to grow more confident, if they need to access a network. I can provide them with that. So yes, if they think I can help them, I'll do it willingly. But then, it's in their hands. In fact, each of them is already a leader at his own scale within his village, his community, but perhaps they are not aware of it yet.
Thank you, Sophie.
You're welcome.
You were watching Initiative Africa. Well, that's it for today. If you want to catch the show again, tune in people-television.com, and we're back again next week, same time, same channel, with Business Africa, your appointment with the African economy. Stay tuned and send us your feedback on Twitter using the hashtag Initiative Africa TV show. Bye-bye.